do men actually like to chase women?
I think that's what it is. I think it's exciting when we're progressing towards something that we want. We get excited, right?
Yes, but it has to be followed by some form of reciprocation.
Do you think everybody should have a promiscuous phase?
You mean just being an occasional, slut?
I wasn't going to say that. I was going to use that term. Yo guys, welcome back to another episode on my channel. I'm sitting in this spot, which means I have another great conversation lined up for you today. On this channel, we like to talk about all things dating and relationships and seeing what we can do to attract the kind of person we want for a relationship. So without further ado, please welcome Monica to the show. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
How are you today?
I'm very, very good. Very excited, a little bit nervous.
Oh, don't you worry. This is her first podcast, guys. So, we're going to get into it. She's prepared some stuff. I've got some stuff for us to go through. We'll have a nice time.
I'm sure we will.
All the way from Leeds.
Yes, well, Poland originally.
I know.
I didn't fly from Poland today. Yesterday. No, I'm joking. I live in Leeds.
She flew all the way from Poland just to be on this couch.
Yeah, it's well worth it.
We like that. We like that. All right. So one thing I like to start off with is tell us your age or your age range if you're gonna, ask a lady her age. And one thing a guy should know about you if he wanted to take you on a date.
I'm 30 years old.
Okay.
And the thing a guy should know if he wants to take me on a date about me, is it like personality wise or preferences or what kind of things?
What's one thing that you like to communicate to a guy about yourself that you're this kind of person and this works really well with you?
I would say I really appreciate open and very honest conversations and communications.
Okay.
So I like things to be quite straightforward. I don't like playing games. If I like somebody, I wish I could just say it to them without trying to play games that we all kind of get sort of trapped in these days, because, you have these unspoken rules about you shouldn't text first, or you should give 2 days between texting and all that stuff. I really don't like it, and I wish things were just easier.
Yeah. So if you go on a date with a guy and you like him, will you be like, hey, I like you? Will you openly say that? Or?
So that's actually my question to you, because this is something that I struggle to comprehend in my head, because I'm a very direct, straightforward, to the point person.
Okay.
And I like to say things whenever I mean them. And also when I talk to people, when I express my feelings, I just like to be straightforward. I don't like, whenever also I have any sort of issues or things that I'm not certain about, I like to address these issues straight away. I don't like waiting, or playing mind games. So my question actually to you is, as a man, and I'm not talking about broken men, let's say a high value man, which again, it's a very subjective thing. And
we talk about what that is.
Yeah, because it's all about high value women and men these days, but nobody actually talks about what this is.
What it is.
So let's say you have a high value man or a man who's not broken. Do you guys, would you prefer to be told by a woman that she likes you? I don't know, you get on and there's chemistry and you obviously like her, so it's mutual.
Yeah.
Would you rather be told by her that, hey, I like you, I fancy you, would you like to take it further? Or would you prefer to sort of, I don't know, maybe drag it a little bit and not being told that? Maybe would you like to be the first one to tell her? Does that make any difference? Because that comes down to men chasing, and that kind of it's kind of goes together. Is that a thing for men as well? Do you guys like to chase, or do you just chase the feeling that's not necessarily love?
Good question.
It's quite a few questions here.
Yeah, no, I hear that. So what I would say is, I think if we're assuming a guy is kind of, emotionally intelligent with his wherewithal, a high value guy, whatever it is we define that as, whether he will be looking at your actions, at a woman's actions, to know if she likes him. And he will know that, okay, if she likes me, I know that she's going to where I'm going to ask to see her. She's going to say, yes, she wants to come out. She's going to, offer to contribute, to the experience that we're having together, in terms of maybe we go to the cinema and maybe he buys the tickets and maybe she offers to get the popcorn or something. She also initiates and says, oh, like, hey, I saw this thing. I wanted to invite you, see if you come. She'll be intimate with him, right? Because we know that that's how women show their investment, through their physical intimacy, not their attention. Whereas for guys, it's the other way around. So if she's doing all those things, she doesn't have to explicitly say, I like you, because her actions are kind of showing that, you know, if he, you know, understands, is with his wherewithal. But if she wants to say, hey, like, I do like you and I like where this is going, that's reinforcement for him, because especially if he likes her, because at the end of the day, if she likes her, it doesn't matter whether she says it or not. That's not going to affect how he chooses to invest in her. Do you know what I mean? The one thing I will say is that part of the desire for someone, or the curiosity, is having a little bit of mystery.
Yeah.
So part of the excitement when we go to meet someone after the second date, third date, fifth date, is that we're like, okay, it looks like they like us, but I don't know for sure, right?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And I guess I don't want to say that's like a game, but it's a dance. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to a game. It's kind of like, okay, like, I'm going to take one step forward and then you take one step. Oh, okay, I'm going to take another step. Is she going to take it? Oh my gosh, she took that step. Okay, we're like moving, we're progressing together. Even though none of you might have actually said, hey, I like you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I agree as well. It's nice to have a bit of mystery. And yeah, it's not as exciting when you both just, you know, become very pragmatic, you know. It's because like love and all the feelings are highly irrational. So being sort of like pragmatic all the time, it isn't fun really. You need a bit of like these irrational stuff going on as well.
And I think there's ways,
nice balance, I think.
Yeah, there's definitely nice balance. I think that there's ways to communicate I like you without saying it, is basically what I'm saying. But you can, if you're, you know, maybe you're just having a nice evening and stuff, maybe you've you know, it's been a month and a bit, and you're just like, hey, like, I actually really like you. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Do you feel like people play games? They're like, oh, I'm not going to tell you because X, Y, and Z, or I'm not going to show too much affection, or?
Yes, all the time. Maybe not so much from men, and whatever I'm saying on this podcast, it's my experience only. I'm not referring to all men or all women. So just to clarify this before I get bashed for saying things.
Yeah, of course.
Based on my experience, it's more us women playing games and trying to play games because they think this is how they should do things, and this is what's sort of like expected from them, and they feel like it's some kind of necessity to play games. They can't be direct, or maybe they don't know how to express their feelings or the fact they like the guy. Maybe they're not confident enough. I'm not really sure, but I've noticed that with women. Also sometimes men too.
Yeah, I think we
all play games. I think it's fair to say we all play games, but I think it's just so, you know, games like, if you like somebody, like you said, you don't have to necessarily verbalize it with your words, but you can show by actions. But I'm talking games, these sort of games when, you know, somebody sends you a message and you really want to reply back because you really like the guy, and you wait for 2-3 days because you want to act like you're some kind of like unattainable person and he has to chase you. I don't really like that. And sometimes I get trapped in this sort of logic or lack of logic.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, do men actually like this thing?
I think I think if there is an element of, when we take someone, if they respond straight away, we go, oh, they're super accessible. And I think that's what it is. Like, women don't want to come across as too accessible.
Yes.
And I understand that. But I think if you start that way, so let's say there are times where he messages you and you respond straight away because like, oh, we're having a conversation. And then there might be a time where he messages you and you can't get back to him until the end of the day because maybe you're busy, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe sometimes you do respond straight away. He'll go, oh, okay, she responds to me when she can. And if she can't, it's because she's busy, right? So I don't think that makes a woman come across as desperate or, you know, kind of, you know, too keen in that sense. But I will say, if it's one of those, if she operates in a way where she'll drop everything for him, that's where it comes across a bit too keen and be like, oh, okay, yes, she likes me, but is she is she respecting kind of her time and herself, like the way that she should be to come across as the kind of value that maybe he's looking for? So it's kind of like, you know, like I said, I get not wanting to be accessible, but I think if you start with, okay, I respond when I can, and then sometimes you can't respond. I think if that's how you start, I don't think you responding straight away, he'll go, oh, okay, she's like super desperate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is normal. Like you respond whenever, well, for me at least, when I work, I don't respond. And
Exactly.
it's always going to be, you know, sometimes going to be more frequently. Sometimes it's going to be less frequently. And I think that's kind of normal for me. But, you know, you get people who would leave, I don't know, they think there are some rules they have to follow about, you know, number of days that you have to leave in between. Or so these sort of games are a bit unnecessary. And
the thing is, if I'm being honest, I think playing that game can work against you, because if you're talking to, let's say you're talking to a guy, and let's say he's the kind of guy who maybe has options. Let's say he's a high value guy who has options, right? And let's say there's a few girls that he's talking to. Like, let's say there's a few women he's talking to, and maybe you're one of the few, right? And he's like, you know, he's not committed to anyone, you know, he's just talking, seeing where things go. If you're the one who only responds every 2-3 days, and there's another one who does respond and he's building more of a flow with her, he's naturally going to be connecting with her and will be wanting to see her kind of before the one who's not reciprocating to the same degree. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she thinks, oh, I'm playing this game to show that I'm valuable and stuff. But that could be interpreted as, okay, she's actually not as interested in me as I would like her to be. But this person is showing a lot of interest. And when I say, hey, you know, because if he's like, okay, I have 2 tickets to a music gig on Friday and it's Wednesday, the girl who only responds every 2 days, she's going to be like, well, I'm not going to ask her, because by the time she responds, even if she said yes, it may be too late. So he's just going to ask the one who's like, oh, I know she'll get back to me, you know, and be like, oh yeah, I'd love to come. So I understand why people play that game, but I think they have to be careful. It can work against them it can look like they're not that interested, in which case anyone who has, I say respect for themselves, but anyone who values themselves, I think, you know, they will invest where they're getting the reciprocation.
Yeah, of course. And I think it's also disingenuous if you act like you're busy, but you're not. And this is your premise where, you know, how are you going to build anything solid on this sort of premise where there's so much, you know, lying already, or being disingenuous, or acting like somebody you're not? Because people would say, oh, I'm busy, but they're not really. They just want to act like they unattainable because they think, oh, I'm more of a higher value man or a woman.
Yeah, very true. What would you, because you said you fall into that yourself before. Have you done that before?
Well, sometimes I get a little bit, you know, confused when it comes to dating, when it comes to this sort of particular thing.
Yeah.
So I know, I mean, I don't actually know, do men like to chase or not? And I try to find a good balance in between, you know. I don't tend to play games. Of course, I would reply whenever I feel like I can reply.
Of course.
And it's going to be genuine. But I also kind of try to maybe, when it comes to expressing my feelings, I would probably wait a little bit longer, or wait for a man to say something first.
Sure.
Because I think I'm a bit shy, and I don't want to come across as too keen. And this is when I get a bit confused, you know.
Yeah.
How to do things. So
it's one of those things where you know, expressing to someone you like them, kind of, you know, responding to them, like going on dates, being physical with them. It's not about investing based on how much you like them. You invest in them based on how much they invest in you. So that's why you're like, okay, I'll say that I like him if he expresses something that he likes me. Do you know what I mean?
Same energy kind of.
Yeah, exactly. You can reciprocate that energy. Because, you know, we could be like, oh, we feel this way. But if we give everything out the gate straight away, it's kind of, the reality is, it's not that we shouldn't give, but as human beings, we value what we have to earn. So it's kind of like, you can hold that, but you could be like, okay, we've not gotten to the point where I think it's appropriate for me to share this with you yet. Do you know what I mean? It's the same as sex. Like, you can meet a guy, be super attracted to him, and be like, I really would like be physically intimate with him, right? But that doesn't mean you should have sex with him on the first date. Because if you
Totally.
do, he's going to value the intimacy side less because it's come very easy and very quickly. It's an unfortunate reality, but that is the reality.
Yeah,
Do
it
you know what I
is.
mean?
That sounds reasonable what you're saying. I agree with that. And yeah, I think you should invest as much as you're being given, I think. Not more, not less. And if you don't like somebody, just tell them you don't
Yeah,
like them. And...
100%. Let me ask you something.
Oh my God.
What's one thing you think men get wrong about women?
What men get wrong about women? I need to think about this one just to say the
Yeah.
right thing. That's a tough one.
Is there something that, you know, guys have been like, oh, women like this or women do this, and you're like, that's really not the case? Or do men have women sussed? Do they have them worked out?
So I'm now in the moment of my life when I used to call myself a feminist,
Okay.
although it had nothing to do with feminism. And I thought there was so much misogyny and men patriarchy and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So back then, that was probably like a year ago.
Oh, so that's quite recent.
But yeah, I don't think I have anything in particular to say about men in general, but my issue before was the fact that I thought there was like so much misogyny and, you know, men being misogynistic and not valuing women and just things like, you know, men just wanting sex and all that stuff. And I kind of fell into this sort of trap when I thought, yeah, that's all they want.
What was it that you were interpreting that made you think that?
That we have misogyny in the world. Yeah?
Just like that, you know, the things that, I guess there are things that you don't see as misogynistic now, and that men are just in it for sex and they don't value women. Like, what was it that you were seeing that was like, yeah, this lines up with that message?
You know what it was? It was just watching the wrong things online.
Okay, yeah.
Literally, that's
we're
all
all
it
culprits
was.
of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was just an influx of different videos and yeah, just reading and watching the wrong things. And that kind of really alters your perception on things. And even if you think that you're because I find myself being quite logical and reasonable, even though I found myself being this way, I still got affected by what I was watching. And I fell into this sort of victim mentality, thinking that, you know, us women have it worse and it's the world led by men and you guys have it all easier. And, you know, every man is a sexual predator. And, you know, I wasn't like too deep into it, but it was in the back of my head.
Yeah. And what made you, because you said it was about a year ago, you had a shift. What made that shift for you?
So I think I accidentally stumbled upon some other podcast. And I think one of the first people I started watching was Jordan Peterson.
Oh, yeah.
And he started talking.
Love him.
Oh yeah, he's absolutely amazing.
We love him.
He's such a clever, smart man, and I love his interviews and podcasts, especially with women. He just kind of crushes them, you know, in the nicest possible way, because I think it's just always,
he tells the truth.
He tells the truth. Yes, and they always try to, you know, attack him. Like most of the interviews with women I watched with him, they all try to attack him and prove the point, but they have no point to be proven. So of course, yeah, he's got a very good point. So I think I just came across one of his videos. And I didn't like what I heard, because it was all about what men struggle with, about masculinity, what men have to go through these days, you know, issues and struggles that men go through, and, you know, how many men struggle with mental health issues and suicides and all that stuff. And I didn't like it at first, because I liked being a bit of a victim, you know, us women have it worse and, you know, all that stuff. So I watched a few things. It made me uncomfortable. Then I rewatched it, and I started watching other videos, even infamous Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
That guy at first I hated. I was like, oh my God.
Of course.
He's
Most
so
people do.
bad. He's so, controversial, but he's got a very good points. I know he's trying to be controversial. He has to get the message across, but he's got very valid points. Obviously I don't agree with everything, but he's got very valid points as well. So I just started watching, different people, quite a few people like Ben Shapiro, I think.
Oh yeah.
Candace Owen, conservative, from Conservative Party people.
Yeah.
So I started watching these things, and I'm not saying I agree with everything,
of course,
but it really opened my eyes on the fact that men can also be victims, and men struggle with so many things that we do not even realize. And us women just like to play this kind of victims sort of mindset game, and we should really look around sometimes and see how many issues men have, and nobody talks about it. It's not even being encouraged, actually being discouraged from it.
It's interesting because a lot of the time historically men have just been seen to get on with it, and most people who die in the workplace are men. Most people who commit suicide are men. Most people who are homeless are men. Most people who obviously die in war are men. So, men are failing, they're struggling behind in school compared to girls. Yeah. Most people who go to university are now women. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, that last part. But it's, it's almost like we're kind of expected to bear the burdens and struggles of life and, kind of suck it up, so to speak. And I think there is an element of that. They say burden is made for shoulders, not hips. The bird is made for the man, not the woman. But I think the refusal to acknowledge these things, I think is kind of a bit of an issue, or has been. Why do you think the victim mentality is so attractive for people, but I guess I'm asking for a lot of women in kind of that space? Why do you think the victim mentality is so attractive to them?
I think mainly because it takes away self-accountability. So
big facts.
Yeah. So if self-accountability is taken away from you, you don't have to think about what you say, what you do. You don't have to think about anything else. You give it up, the control over your feelings, literally, somebody else. And you just blame it on some other people. So you don't have to do the work, and you don't have to look into yourself. Because I think most issues, like 90% of issues that we have, whether they with our relationships or any sort of issues, 90% are the problems that are caused by us. And we can also solve them. Like you're your own problem, but you're also your own solution.
Yes.
So nobody wants to do the work. Nobody wants to look into what they do wrong, what they can fix, because it's difficult, it's uncomfortable, it's inconvenient. So it's probably better to just look around, find issues where there are no issues, and just blame it on somebody else. Let them do the work for you.
Yeah.
I think the accountability, that's what our society lacks a lot these days, accountability.
Yeah, no, I agree. Do you think many people have that with their love lives, with dating? Do you think that a lot of people have that? How does that play in that world, in your eyes, from what you've seen?
A lack of accountability.
Yeah, like what does that look like when they're like, it's completely them, it's not me? And
well, it makes people break up. I think it makes relationships not last, because if you have no accountability and you just blame the other person, you just end up, first of all, unhappy. You make your partner unhappy, and you break up very soon. And before you break up, you have lots of conflicts and arguments that can never be solved, because there's only so much the other person can carry when the other person's being blamed for everything. There's only so much, if you have a people pleaser, okay, they can probably carry that for a bit, but then they will have that tipping point and that will be over, because nobody can do that for a long period of time. It's really unhealthy and damaging,
100%.
And I'm not saying, we are all guilty of it sometimes.
Of course, I think we all are.
We're just humans, so we're all guilty of just acting like a victim sometimes. There's nothing wrong with that if it's like in small doses. but I'm talking about people who always find issues in other people, but never in themselves. And I think us women in particular like to do it because like if you go through different, I don't know, tweets or go through internet and just have a look at different posts, how often us women complain about men and say horrible things like men are trash, men are this, men are, every single man is a sexual predator, blah, blah, blah. Imagine if that was reversed and men started saying the exact same things about women. Imagine the outrage that would happen. It would be all over BBC and all the programs and everything. But for some reasons, like women are allowed to say these things about men, while men could never say the same things.
I was I had this kind of dating debate on BBC Radio the other day.
Oh, wow.
And we would obviously talk about this stuff. And, it's interesting how we live in a culture where women can express their standards in men. I want a guy to be this tall, make this money, look this good, etc. And it's celebrated. Even saying like, oh, men are trash or whatever. But if a man even expresses, oh, this is what I like in a woman, suddenly he's misogynistic.
Yes.
He gets criticized for it and everything like that. And it's funny because I see a lot of women who say this rhetoric, like men are trash, etc. Most of them want a man at the end of the day. So I'm kind of like, I don't understand, like you can think that yourself, but by putting it out there, and if you're constantly putting it out there, I don't know how you would think that that is what's going to attract the kind of man you want. Because if a man was saying all women are trash and they're not good for the effort and anything like that, but at the end of the day, he actually really wants a good woman, all the good women who look at him will be like, well, clearly you hate women, so why would I invest in you? Do you know what I mean? And it's true, men don't verbalize these things, but they do show through their actions.
Oh.
And they do show like, okay, well, these are the kind of women that, a man will choose to commit to, that he will take seriously, take out. And these are the kind of women that maybe he won't. Do you know what I mean? And I think what's happening is I think more women they've go through this phase of the kind of rhetoric you said, but it doesn't get them the results that they want. And then when they start approaching it differently, they start to get different results. And like, oh my gosh, actually, maybe what I was thinking before actually wasn't serving me the way I thought. So like, which brings me on to my next question. Would you say how you approach like dating and men now is different to how it was 2 years ago? Or is it the same?
Yes, I think since I started watching all these podcasts, especially the podcasts that are done by men, I got a different outlook on the men. And I am definitely more understanding towards men. I don't judge as I used to. I don't use words like patriarchy or misogyny because I realized, I've actually never come across a man in real life who was a misogynist. Because like most men pretty much all of the men that I come across in my real life, I'm not talking about internet.
Yes.
They all wanted to please women. They all wanted to do everything they could. They wanted to, show them how much they care about them.
Yeah.
Maybe I was lucky enough. Of course, you have like broken people and you get like exceptions. Yeah.
Yeah, they're there.
But I've never actually met a misogynistic man. So I'm not sure where this is all coming from. And also patriarchy, why is it a bad thing? Maybe it's a good thing.
Well, it's funny because when I've talked to a lot of women and they go, oh, do you want a man who's going to quote unquote lead in a relationship? A lot of them say yes. The majority of them say yes. And it's like, that's kind of what patriarchy is. It's the man in the leadership position. Like if you're saying you want a household where you have a strong masculine man who leads the household well and you love him, you trust him, you value him, technically that's a patriarchal household.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want a matriarchal household where the woman's doing that, that's, neither here or there, like each to their own. But then it's like they're saying patriarchy, we don't like patriarchy, we don't like this. But then ultimately a lot of women, what they actually want at home, especially when they're looking to settle down, have kids, slow down, etc. It's like, I want a man to come in and look after me and take care of me. I'm like, well, he can only do that in a leadership position. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I don't know why and where it came from that patriarchy has this negative sound to it. It's become like a very negative word. But exactly what you said, if it wasn't for the patriarchy, these relationships would not function, and also we would have literally nothing. If you look around, everything's probably like invented or been built by men. So you know,
it's very true. I think to be fair, there are quote unquote patriarchy. It's not all good. So there are some things that could have been improved upon that I think we've improved upon the past few decades. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't agree with like women not being able to vote or the right to work. Do you know what I mean? And that was part of the system historically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think to say that it's all bad, I think is wrong as well. Do you know what I mean? There's some benefits, huge benefits. It's what got us here. But I understand there are some things that came with it, at least historically, that wasn't optimal for people, and some of it was wrong. You know, like I said, the rights thing. But yeah, what's a question you have? Do you have a question or something you want to talk about?
I think. Oh yeah, that was another one that I wanted to ask. Is chasing a thing for men? Like, do men actually like to chase women? If they, I'm not talking about just a casual relationship, friends with benefits, but if they're looking for something serious, do men like to chase, or is that like a normal thing, or do they prefer just to have like a very open conversation about things, or is the chasing part, I don't know, something that men just like to do or expect to do?
If I'm being honest, I think if a guy was looking for a serious relationship, I think anyone looking for a serious relationship, if they go, okay, I'm ready for something serious, somebody walks in who is their type, that they're attracted to, who wants something serious with them as well, that they get on with, goes, hey, I'm looking for something serious, and then they get together. I think that's like the perfect ideal for anyone. I think the reason men have grown accustomed to chasing is because they've always had to.
Oh.
Because women generally don't chase.
No.
Like, women don't make, even if a woman likes a guy, what she'll do is provide the opportunity and avenue for him to chase. So she'll like, maybe, I don't know, if they're at a bar, she'll be looking at him, maybe she'll smile at him or something, but she won't actually go and approach him. You know, she'll say, hey, I'm available for you to approach. Like, come talk to me. Or on Instagram, she maybe will like his story or like his photos and comment or something. So it's like, stereotypically, that's kind of how the feminine chase. She'll provide the opportunity for the man to directly chase her. I think some guys do like the chase, but they only like the chase if they think what they're chasing is reachable. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And how they know if it's reachable is if she is, what we talked about, reciprocating. So he's like, I like making the first move. I like taking the steps forward, so long as she's also reciprocating that intention and effort. But if he's like, oh, I'm chasing and I'm doing all this stuff, but I'm not getting anything back, guys don't like that, because it's like, well, what am I doing it for? So it's kind of, you know, you want to run the race that you want to, you know, you have a chance of winning. But if you're like, hey, why don't you race against Usain Bolt? It's like, well, I'm not going to win. So why would I run? Do you know what I mean? So I think it's more, I think that's what it is. I think it's exciting when we're progressing towards something that we want. We get excited, right?
Yes, but it has to be followed by some form of reciprocation. It's not just chasing without any sort of reward. So that's not something men like to do, from what you said. I think it's just because chase for the sake of chasing.
Yeah, it's kind of like, imagine you're playing like Super Mario, like a video game, right? And it's like, you want to get to level 10, but to get to level 10, you have to go to level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. And level 10 is why you started the game. You want to get to the end, right? You want to get to the big boss. If you're stuck on level 2 and you can't get level 2, you just stop playing.
Yeah.
Right? Eventually you will stop playing, because it's like, with each level, you get a reward, you level up, you get better weapons and stuff, you get better equipped for the next level, right? If you can't progress past a certain level, a lot of the time people will be like, cool, well, I'm just not going to continue playing this because I can't get past this level. So I think for a lot of guys, at least I would say guys who are self-respecting, who value themselves, value their time and effort and intention. If a woman's not reciprocating and he's given a lot, then he'll be like, she's just not interested, so I'm just going to move on. Because there's another woman who will reciprocate that, and we're looking for the same thing. Which is why I'm saying this whole kind of game playing, sometimes women can shoot themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
And that's not about giving everything up front, but it's just about reciprocating.
Yes, that's a very good point. And yeah, something I wasn't quite sure enough. But yeah, you clarified my doubts. Thank you.
No.
It's a very sad story about Mario Kart, you know, when you said you're stuck at level 2 and you just stopped playing. I just felt like, you know, it's a very sad one.
I know. I mean, listen, if I've been stuck at level 2 for 2 weeks and I'm playing it every day, I'm moving on to a different game. I'm not, why am I killing myself just so I can get to Bowser at the end? Like, I don't care that much.
Yeah, I would probably stop after like 15 minutes. I'll be like, fuck this.
Yeah, I'm out.
Bye.
Kind of since, you know, you said like watching these other dating podcasts and kind of understanding men more, what was like one thing that really opened your eyes in terms of the dating dynamics between men and women? What was like one thing that at first was a shock, but then as you saw some stuff and you're like, and maybe even you started to see it, you started to see certain things in your own life, you're like, oh wow, it's like, you know, when you see something you can never unsee it. What was like one thing that you were kind of like, wow, this really opened my eyes about men? I
guess the fact that men are also humans. You know,
who knew
humans with very similar needs to us women in one way.
Yeah.
And they also want to be loved, listened to. That's a big eye-opener that I kind of found it out through my job as well. It wasn't just a podcast, but podcasts kind of reinforced that kind of idea and assumption.
What is your job? What do you do?
I work as a model and I also have OnlyFans.
OnlyFans girl?
Oh my God. Now I'm going to be put into that category, like OnlyFans girl. But yeah, I produce digital content that I sell to people on different platforms. I film and shoot for different websites with, you know, pictures and videos. Different things, whatever people kind of want, I just monetize it. I mean, I do my best.
Do your thing, girl.
But yeah, through, you know.
Oh, just move the mic real quick. Yeah, just move it. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. So we can hear you.
But yeah, through podcasts and also my job, because when I model, most of my photographers, 95% are men, usually a bit older, 50 plus. So I've noticed that these men very often just want to be listened to. You know, they just want a normal interaction. They want to feel respected, listened to. And that kind of really opened my eyes because I never kind of thought about it. Like for me, being listened to, being respected, or just being appreciated, being complimented. These are like normal things for women, most women,
Yeah, very true.
And that's actually a big one. Being complimented as a man doesn't really exist. That's what opened my eyes. Yeah, that was one of the podcasts I watched and I couldn't believe it. And I thought, you know, all these things like respect, being appreciated, complimented, being listened to, we take it for granted. I think myself, for example, because I never really think about it. And for men, you guys don't really get any compliments. No, very rarely, and especially not from women.
Yeah, very true.
No,
very
women
true.
do not compliment men very often, and men, a man to a man, very rare, I think, as well.
Yeah.
So all these things that kind of really opened my eyes that, you know, men just want very, very basic things that I, for example, take for granted and something I don't even think about. And as much as men, love sex and stuff, they very often, especially these days, a lot of men are very lonely. And what they want is just a very simple connection or just being listened to or just feeling appreciated or respected. And these are very basic things that we don't even think about. And that I was kind of mind blown. I thought I was a victim. I thought I was living in such a bad world because, you know, sexual assaults and all that stuff. And I don't want to sound like, you know, it's not a big issue.
Of course.
But, you know, men also get assaulted. And yeah, that really opened my eyes. And I started being more, I think, understanding towards men. So for example, whenever a man would try to give me a compliment on the street when I was on my own, for example, or they would just look at me, or they would say hi, or just in a nice way. I'm not talking about being derogatory and saying, oh yeah,
Exactly.
nice ass bitch.
Yeah, of course.
But more like, hey, you look pretty, or you look beautiful. I would either blank them, or I would just, get kind of aggressive inside. Just a very weird reaction to it, because I thought, they sort of harassing me sexually, telling me nice things. And this is the mentality us women have. Many women think this way.
Yes.
So after watching all these podcasts, even like little things like, men saying nice things to me on the street, even if it's unsolicited, now I kind of smile back and I say, oh, thank you. Oh, that's very kind of you. Or when men come up to me, try to chat me up, I kind of have a conversation with them, a short one, because I would normally just say I'm dating somebody, because I am. So I would just say, oh, sorry, I'm dating somebody. And I started saying to them that, well done for coming up to me, because that takes a lot of courage. I would never do that as a woman. And I'm quite confident, I'm very extroverted and I'm very confident. I have no issues talking to random people.
Yeah.
But if I like the guy, and if I had to come up to him and say, oh, you look handsome, no fucking way. No chance ever, no.
You would have definitely made their day. You like saying no, but being like, but thank you for coming up and say hi.
Yeah.
Like you would have made their day. Because even though it's like a rejection, he'd be like, wow, like she actually just acknowledged the effort that I made. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, it's so hard. And most guys don't approach because they don't want to be creeps, and they're like, oh, okay, I don't want to disturb her. And usually the guys who approach, they're the kind of guys who approach everyone a lot of the time.
It's a good practice.
It is good practice.
It's a good training,
It is. It's funny. I don't know if I should actually disclose this.
Yes, you should.
She's like, yes, tell us.
I want to
Get yourself
know.
in trouble. There's a game my friend and I used to play when we were like hit our like teens, and we probably stopped in our early 20s, but it was called Go, and it would basically be like, oh, if we were out in public and stuff and we saw an attractive girl, it would be like, okay, you just have to go, and you say go, and you just have to go and talk to her. Like you have to go and like say hi, because for guys it's so terrifying to like especially talk to a girl that you think is attractive, and to try and just introduce yourself, to say hi, like you look really cool or something. And that game was specifically designed to get over that fear. Do you know what I mean? Wow. Though I would never play it now, and I don't recommend any guy playing it now. This was like, 8, 9, 10 years ago.
I'm sure you still play it sometimes. You're saying like, no.
No chance. He's like, go. I'm like, I'm not looking for a case. Absolutely not. I don't want anyone calling the police on me at all.
Oh, this is ridiculous. Oh.
I know. But the thing is though, I think it's good, because the reason I think it's good in that sense is it forces men to start to recognize the subtle cues that a girl likes him. Because I think women tend to communicate very indirectly. So I was saying about if she likes a guy in a bar or club environment, she's making eye contact with him. Her body language is facing him. Maybe she's looking at him while she's sipping her drink. Do you know what I mean? All of these little signs and cues, a lot of men miss. At the same time, he'll take an interest in a girl who's given him no cues or signal that she's into him, and he'll try it. And because she doesn't directly say, no, I'm not interested, he's like, okay, well, there's still a chance. Do you know what I mean? Even though she might be communicating to him that she's not interested, like she's facing away from him, she's not really she's not continuing the conversation, all of that stuff. So I think it's good that men evolve and become more socially adept to pick up these cues from women. So when you pick up those cues from women, which I have, and if you go, oh, okay, like I feel like I'm getting a few cues here, then you go and approach and say, I like you, or like, hey, you look really cool, let me get you a drink, or what's going on. So I don't think it's all or nothing. I think it's a balance. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the whole life is all about balance. It's just finding it, That's a bit of 100%. An issue, isn't it?
So you said you're dating someone.
I was.
You was?
I am kind of in between,
kind of in
say.
between.
Yeah.
In between people or in between dating? No,
in between dating.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you about doing OnlyFans. Mm-hmm. What made you get into it, and have you found it affects like your dating in any way?
Yeah, so I started my page probably 6 years ago. And at first it was a bit on and off with me posting. And I think maybe 2 years ago, I took it more seriously. I just treated it as a proper business, not just some extra money on the side.
Yeah.
But I thought, it's got really great potential for making money. It's a great business concept. How it affected my my dating and my life. So at first, when I started, I was in a long-term relationship. I was with my ex for, I think it was probably about 6 years altogether. But when I started OnlyFans, we were together maybe for a year.
Okay.
And he hated it.
Why do you think he hated it?
Oh, for the obvious reasons. I was showing my body to strangers, you know. The guys were getting excited about seeing me and me flirting with them and sexting them. Of course, he wouldn't like it. And I understand that. But back then I'm 30 now. So I think that was probably when I was, 23. He was similar age. I think he was just a year older. Yeah. So we were both kids. So I think it's very difficult for somebody so young to comprehend that this is just work. But at the same time, I understand that some people do not want to comprehend that this is just job and might feel uncomfortable. And I sort of expected him to be, just be okay with it because it's my job and that's what I'm going to do. So we stayed together. We broke up once because of this and modeling as well, because I do all sorts of shoots, fashion, lingerie, nude.
Yeah.
So of course he didn't like that either.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of not surprised. So we had lots of arguments, lots of conflicts. Yeah. And
when you started it, did you think it was going to risk your relationship?
No, because I'm this kind of a person. I'm quite inconsiderate when it comes to other people sometimes.
It's very honest.
It is, yeah.
Very honest. Hey, she's honest, man.
I am.
Sorry, guys, we had a lighting issue. But yeah, so... Yeah, did you think that it was going to risk? Do you think it was going to risk your relationship when you kind of started it?
So I didn't really think because I'm quite inconsiderate when it comes to other people.
She's very honest, guys. She's honest, at least back then.
Very inconsiderate, and I'm not very empathetic. I think. I mean, I do my best to be empathetic, but I can work on it for sure. Yeah. So these two things made me not consider really his feelings. I didn't really think about him, how he was gonna take it. I just said to him, this is what I'm gonna do, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm gonna do. And and I'm not cheating on you, of course. I try to reassure him that this is just job and this is how it looks. I showed him everything, the pictures I was posting, the messages. He didn't want to see it. Yeah, of course. But I was very transparent. And no, at that time I didn't think about it. But then when he started being feeling uncomfortable and telling me, Monica, this is porn, that it shouldn't be. I wasn't really doing porn as in we were not filming together. It was just probably just nude, maybe slightly more erotic than nude. Yeah. But still, he didn't like it, and he said, I'm not okay with it. But then I was like, look, this is my job. This is what I'm going to do. Yeah. And I didn't really think about it. And even when we broke up, because he said, okay, I can't take it any longer, this nude modeling, OnlyFans, and, some other things. And, constant messages on Instagram from guys, because my Instagram started growing and, he couldn't take it. And he broke up with me. But then at that point, I still wasn't too keen to stop it, because I thought, I can't just give it up for him. Because what else am I gonna do? I actually enjoy doing it because I know I think I'm still quite good at it. I know how to pose. I know how to talk to people. I think I'm quite good with talking to people, talking to men. So I genuinely enjoy it. This whole
So how industry. When did you guys break up?
I think 2 years ago, but the first breakup that I was talking about, that was because of my job, but the official one after 6 years almost, that was, I think it was more of my choice. It was because, we were just incompatible, I would say. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah, 2 years ago. And has doing OnlyFans, has that affected dating for you with guys and stuff like that? How's that impacted your dating life and stuff?
So I did have a relationship afterwards, I think a year later. So I think last year I did meet somebody and we were together for 3 months. So that's not bad.
Okay.
it's not very long. Yeah. He didn't mind. He had no issues with that. He even helped with some pictures.
Nice.
Also in between, I think maybe one person I just saw, but nothing bigger came out of it. Yeah, he didn't mind either. So I don't think it's really affected my dating life, although I am very aware that it probably will. And I think a lot of men would be quite, uncomfortable with it. And I realized that. Yeah,
I think if we're just gonna be real, I think it depends on the kind of man you want. I think if you have a guy who's very very liberal-minded, very open-minded in that sense, like less traditional, obviously less conservative, then I think most of those guys will probably be more accepting of it. But yeah, if you have a guy who's very, more traditional minded, like I'm the man, you're the woman, blah blah blah, all of that kind of, I think with those kind of guys, I think they would have an issue if you got with them and then continue to do it. I think it's the reality. Do you know what I mean? Because I think by nature men are quite sexually territorial, and there's reason for this, wanting to like ensure paternity and stuff like that. But even like selling sexuality, like a guy wants to feel there's something of you that is being reserved for him and only him. And even though you're technically not having sex with other guys, it's kind of like the sexuality is being shared. Now, some guys like that because they're like, oh, they all want to have sex with you, but they don't get to, right?
Yes.
So there is that aspect. And for some guys, like, that's cool. It's like, oh, I like it that everyone's wanting my girl so much, and they're like, if they feel so close yet so far. But yeah, I think what I'm saying is there will be, I think, certain kinds of guys that will be pretty cool with it, and there'll be certain guys who just aren't, and that's just what comes with the territory.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That sounds reasonable. I'm aware of that, and I'm not delusional thinking, I'm going to find a traditional man doing OnlyFans and nude modeling. I know this is impossible. That makes no sense. It's
unlikely. Not impossible, but it's unlikely.
Highly unlikely.
It's highly unlikely.
Yeah. But I think, I think that kind of makes sense for me. And we shall see.
We'll see. Have you got something that you want to ask? Anything that you want to talk about today? What's one thing you would ask all men if you could?
Ask women.
Ask all men.
All men.
Yeah.
What would I like to ask them? I usually just ask them because I spend so much time with men, because I work with men. Photographers are men. My clients are men. I'm just surrounded by men.
Surrounded by men all the time.
Yeah, all the time. And very good friends of mine are men as well. So I always just ask them.
Yeah.
I did ask something quite recently. I don't remember what it was. I think I was just asking about something related to dating.
Yeah.
I think it was something to do with also chasing, something similar that I asked you, because I wasn't quite sure whether men like to play games or they just, because we always have this assumption that men are very straightforward.
Yeah.
But sometimes they're not that straightforward. So
what do you think they're not like? You mean in regards to like the game playing? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like dating sometimes. So, I've heard that if you don't know whether he likes you, if you feel confused, that's probably because he doesn't like you. Is this like true? Because if somebody likes you and he's a man, and let's say men are more straightforward,
yes,
you would probably know if he likes you. Is that right? Because with women it's a bit different. Like you probably wouldn't quite know because women don't verbalize things. But if it's a man, do you know if he likes you? And if you're not too sure, is it because he doesn't like you enough?
As a general rule, if you don't know, and not really early, like if you've only been on 1 or 2 dates, but if it's been several weeks, maybe a month and a bit, if you're confused as to whether he's into you, he's probably not as into you as you think.
Yeah.
And I know you're like, oh, men, you know, sometimes they're not direct. They are in terms of how they communicate, but you have to know how they communicate. And like I said, it's through their actions. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, it's recognizing things like, okay, does he only respond quickly to me when I'm sending him a sexual message? Like, so when I ask him, hey, how was your day? He doesn't respond for a few days. But if I send him, say, hey, I'm thinking of you tonight, what are you up to? Suddenly his response time goes from 3 days to 3 minutes. Do you know what I mean? You know, can you spend time with him where sex is off the table? Can you meet him for a coffee or go for lunch or go to a gallery or go to an event? If he's only looking at you in a casual way, then he won't invest in spending that time with you because he's like, well, if I'm only here to be intimate with her, none of these things, we're going to be intimate. We're actually doing an activity. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think when you start to recognize how a guy is basically communicating and shows you that he likes you, it becomes very clear whether he's into you or not. Do you know what I mean? At least for like long term.
That makes a lot of sense. So yeah, it's true. If he likes you, you will know, basically. Yeah.
I think if you're confused, and the thing is, and here's the danger, right? It could be that he likes you, but he's not choosing you. And those are two very different things. Because if you say a guy's like, if he's dating like a few girls, for example, maybe there's one girl he's making that effort with. He's taken her out. He's met her friends. He's going to events and stuff. But then let's say there's another girl who he only sees her when he wants to be like sexually intimate. He's only seeing her as like a sexual option, which is sometimes what guys do if they can, right? He can want her. He can desire her, but that's not choosing her. Because the desire only comes in the moment that he wants something. Right? When you're choosing someone, you are doing things, especially as a guy to a woman, you're doing things outside of the bedroom that show intention. Like the things I just said. Like, hey, I saw this event happen in a couple of weeks. I think we should go. Should I get tickets? And she's like, yeah, I'd love to. Do you know what I mean? He's making future plans. If he's dating a woman that he's not really that serious with and he doesn't have that intention, he's not gonna offer that because he's not looking to build that with her. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That makes sense?
That makes, yeah. I like how he said it. He likes you, but he's not choosing you.
Yeah. He wants you, but not choosing you. And that's very, you know, they're two very different things. Two very different things.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the time, sometimes some women can fall into the trap of confusing sexual attention for romantic intention. Do you know what I mean? They think, well, because he wants to have sex with me, that means he likes me. No, it doesn't. It means he wants to have sex with you.
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't mean he necessarily likes you. It's all the things he does outside of the bedroom that tells you.
Yes,
Do you know
I
what
agree.
I mean?
Yeah.
Let me ask you something. Do you think everybody should have a promiscuous phase? Do you think that's beneficial?
You mean just being an occasional, slut?
I wasn't going to say that. I was going to use that term. But yeah, like, do you think it's, let's say for women, do you think it's in their interest and it's beneficial for them to go through a phase where they're just kind of sleeping with guys casually and, sleeping with different guys and stuff like that, seeing what they like, all of that stuff? Do you think it's beneficial? Or
for women or for men or just for
let's
women?
do for women and then we'll talk about for men.
So I've never gone through this sort of phase. Maybe recently I did have like a friend with benefits sort of thing, but we still had a connection. So I didn't feel like it was just a one night stand. Yes. I've never done one night stands before. So I've never felt like that was something for me. And I'm still not too keen on these things because I need connection to be in place to have sex with a person. So for me, that doesn't work. And it's never been on my mind whether I was, 20 or now. Whether it's beneficial for women, I've never done it myself, so it's difficult for me to really say whether it could be beneficial. Yeah. I think if
what about friends of yours? You seen your friends of yours kind of have that party promiscuous phase?
Yeah, I do know a few people personally, and what I hear was okay, I had sex with this guy. Yeah, it was fun when it happened. But then it kind of leaves you quite empty and you feel unloved and unwanted because you never see that person again.
Yeah.
And if we assume and generalize and say women very often have or kind of connect sexual pleasure with feelings, they often put them together.
Yeah.
If we assume that that's the case for most women, then being promiscuous isn't ideal, isn't it? Because if you can't really separate these two and you have a one night stand or like a friend with benefits, you're not going to get what you want. You're going to feel really terrible afterwards when you realize that, you know, that this guy just wants to just fuck you and that's all it is. Maybe it's different for men because maybe men can separate these two things.
I think easier.
Maybe some women also can do these two things.
So
they can
some women
separate.
can.
Just detach themselves because I think you can. And, you know, that's also, it's often the case like for some people who have gone through some kind of sexual trauma, they often detach themselves from it, from their sexuality completely, and then they can do these things because they kind of numb, you know. So I think for certain people that could work. If you just want to have sex for just as a physical act, that's how you treat it, and you're pretty sure that nothing else will come out of it. You're pretty certain that you're not going to develop feelings for that person. It's just a physical act. You're very sure about it. You know yourself. Then I think, why not? It could be fun, you know? Sex is good. 100%. Like we all love sex. So I think for men and women, that's the case. But I think you need to really know yourself and really think about what you want. Because if you're thinking, I want to get love through sex and fucking this guy who I don't really know, then you're going to be disappointed because that's not how it works.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And there's pros and cons to everything. And I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, there's no benefit to kind of having a crazy promiscuous party phase or whatever. I'm not going to say that. Because some people are like, oh, I get to know what I like and I get to know what works for me. And I think that is really good. But I do agree the most cases that I've seen when a girl's been, sleeping with multiple guys over a short period of time, it's a compensation for something. A lot of the time. And a lot of them, at these girls I've talked to, they say like, they don't feel good after. And it's funny because I've seen and talked to women who went through a crazy promiscuous phase and then they're like, I'm now celibate. And they're like gone from one extreme to the other. Like completely just like, not having sex, whatever. And then ironically, that's kind of depends where they're at in life. I think depends where they're at, what stage they're at, maybe how old they are and stuff. But I had a guest on who she went through that. And then it was from that when she started to prioritize the emotional intimacy over the physical. She then found a really great guy. And she's in a very happy relationship. Oh. Do you know what I mean? I think it's that thing of a woman using, women have the power when it comes to sex. It's just about using that wisely for what you want. If you want to have a casual fun phase, do your thing. But if you're looking for a serious connection and relationship, there's ways to use it so it serves you and serves for what you want. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
and you only learn by making your own mistakes. So if you had this sort of phase and you felt like, oh my God, it was such a failure.
Yeah.
If you're smart enough and can learn and can admit that, okay, that was quite wrong, you can learn from it. Like you said,
very
one
true.
Of your guests, she started valuing emotional connection, because if somebody doesn't quite know what emotional connection is because they've never had it back home when they were kids or something.
Yeah, very good point.
If they don't know what it is, they look through, I think, the easiest channels to get that. So sex, that would be probably something that they would go through as the first thing.
Yeah.
And we always hear about sex from everywhere. It's all about sex, these days. So these people go through it thinking, oh, I'm going to get this emotional connection and intimacy with people. And when they don't get it, if they, start to think about it, they might realize, like your guests, that, okay, that was wrong. That didn't really serve me. But then at least I found the definition of this emotional intimacy that I'm actually seeking, that I really, crave. And then they can maybe define it better and hopefully find it.
Yeah. One thing I would say though, I would say that, and I would say this for women, if she's not sure about going through just having a bunch of casual sex, I don't think she should do it. I think she should only do it if she's like, yeah, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Because there is a level of psychological impact it can have, especially as a woman. Also as well, I know you can learn from your mistakes. You can. A smart man learns from his mistakes. A wise man learns from others' mistakes.
Yeah, you don't have to try heroin to know that it's, not
that maybe
good.
You shouldn't try it.
I don't know why I thought heroin.
It's true, right? So I'm not saying it's bad or wrong if she wants to do that, but I'm saying I think if a woman's unsure with that, oh, do I want to do this? Do I like this? Whatever. If she's unsure, I don't think she should. I don't think it serves her and her interest if she wants something significant. But if she's like, hey, yeah, I really just want to have sex with a bunch of guys for the next several months, hey, go do your thing, man.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you do it for the right reason if you just want to have sex with random guys just for the pleasure and just for it to be like a physical act, yeah, go for it.
Yeah,
fine.
exactly, yeah.
But if you're looking for connection, to be loved, to feel respected, appreciated, and want to feel like somebody cares about you, you're not going to find it there.
No.
And like you said, it's going to have some consequences on how you feel. And then you're going to start hating men because you're going to think, oh my God, they're all the same.
Yeah, and they all just treat you like, like you're disposable, like a sexual option.
Yeah.
So true. Listen, it's been a pleasure having you on. So thank you for sharing your energy.
So
where, if people want to find you, where can they find you?
Wow.
Subscribe to my OnlyFans.
Yeah, it's $5. You can find me on Instagram. My name is Monica Lara Smith 4, and also OnlyFans Monica Lara Smith. But Instagram is my main thing. Also TikTok Monica Lara Smith 1. And if you just type Monica Lara Smith, you're gonna get lots of stuff. Some of them are crazy. I didn't even know it was there.
Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for coming on. Guys, go show us some love. Go give her a follow. Give us some likes and stuff. Let us know about what you think about some of the stuff we talked about in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you in the next episode.